boogie, set up, drop the boogie. Ball with the ball, the bang, the dang, diggy, diggy, diggy. Set the boogie, set up, drop the boogie. Ball with the ball, the bang, the dang, diggy, diggy, diggy. Set the boogie, set up, drop the boogie.
Welcome everybody to the 5-hour energy 400 here at Kansas Motor Speedway for the Season 4 race of the NAMAR Mountain Dew Voltage Cup Series. New track record of 26.293 set by Peggy Bowling on the front row. Beside her, the number 10 car of Michael Naylor. Row 2 is Allison Rogers and James Morton. James Morton almost won this race last season. Nico Tringali and Carol Morton in row 3, Henrietta Fitzwater and Michael Beeson in row 4, Jim Morton and Brenda Rogers in row 5. Some notables: Dion Scott starting 12th, Alan Cavanero 14th, Zachary Rogers won this race last year starting in 15th, also won last week at Talladega. Mason Powers starting in 28th, Chris Washington's return starting 33rd, Sam Rogers starting 39th, and in her return, Kate Rogers starts 41st. A lot of Speedway winners. We've had a lot of Speedway winners over the years because we've gone to a lot of Speedways. This should be a very, very tough race. The bottom groove had its grip increased by 0.04, and we are running at 103%. Last year we had, I believe, 2 or 3 cautions in this race with about a 10-lap run to finish the race off. So let's see how the race is here tonight. Ready to go green. As a reminder, we have 6 drivers in the field that have won here 2 or more times at Speedways 2 or more times. Zachary Rogers, Steve Cavallo, Nico Tringali starting 5th, Peyton Goodwin, Tony Vieira. Green flag is out. We are on the way. I think I only gave 5, but whatever. 41 laps here. Only going to be 1 pit stop this year. And the inside line showing the new advantage it has. It wasn't given by much, but it was still a given. And Peggy Bowling will take the race lead. Let's see how this works here now. And it is still tough to pass on the inside, which is a good thing. Peggy Bowling will lead the first lap. And I think we already have a wreck. Caution is out. John Linares, Logan Scott, the points leader. Nathan Rogers, his day's already done. His terrible season continues. Not really sure who else was involved here, but they are lining it up the way they were crossing the line. So Frank Hopkins will have to be 42nd. Logan Scott's going to somehow get to 27th. I don't know how they're planning on doing that. Austin Alves with some huge front-end damage. And settling it to the line, Peggy Bowling will be the race leader. So we'll have to see how that happened. But Austin Alves' day is done, as is John Linares and Nathan Rogers. Nathan Rogers' terrible season will continue. So they might be pitting here. I'm not sure, but let's see what caused our first caution of the night. They're going about 3 wide, and I think Nolan Bergeron moved up, and this is what caught Dion Scott off surprise. He's going to get turned down right into Logan Scott. This was in the middle of the field here. Logan Scott was the other 2 more time. Austin Alves nowhere to go. Goes right into him. John Linares has nowhere to go. There goes the 16 flipping. There's Nathan Rogers, and that was the wreck. I'm surprised more cars didn't get involved. Actually, I think there might have been a wreck right here, because I saw Frank Hopkins get into something here. Austin Alves is up here. So what happened to Frank Hopkins? Well, he's just going to hit the brakes because he's crossed the line in 42nd. And Galligan's going to give him a little bump. I don't know what that's about. But there's your caution. Let's Actually, let's take an on board with the 16 and the 88. On board with Logan Scott. His car went up on the wall, and he was able to drive it away. Now let's go on board with Austin Alves, who took a roll. Board with Austin Alves. Man, that's a slow roll right there, but he was able to drive it away, but his day is done. You can just tell the engine is pretty much dead from that roll. Let's get you to restart. Ready to go back. Green flag racing here. John Linares is a lap down because he pitted and nobody else pitted, so he repaired his damage. He's back on the racetrack. Austin Alves and Nathan Rogers are out of the race, so Nathan Rogers' terrible season continues. Top 10 rundown after nobody pit. Peggy Bowling in first. Nico Tringali second. Third is Henrietta Fitzwater. Fourth, Jim Morton. Fifth, Allison Rogers. Sixth, Michael Naylor. Seventh, Carol Morton. Eighth, James Morton. Ninth, Scott Greeny. 10th, Brenda Rogers. And looking outside in 11th is last year's winner, Zachary Rogers, and last week's winner at Talladega as well. So all the Mortons in the top 10. James in 8th. Carol in 7th. And Jim in 4th. Only 6 laps done, though. We still have 35 to go. The green flag is back out. And we're going to watch John Linares here on this restart. And Jim Morton almost ran right into the back of him. This race looks like it's going to be a lot crazier. John Linares is holding up the bottom lane. And now everybody's going to try to get around John Linares without wrecking. As John Linares is actually getting up to speed. Here's Alan Cavanero in that ugly Interstate Batteries car. John Linares has some back end. Tony Vieira has some damage, I just noticed. John Linares, that's who we're on board. And it's getting treacherous back here. We saw a wreck going into turn 3 last year. It's actually helping them stay too wide, though, but Cavanero is stuck here. And, ooh, Scott Greeny and Carvalho made some contact there. Still green. Logan Scott appears to be slow. Cavanero finally going to get by after dropping like 20 spots. And there's Logan Scott. Logan Scott is faster, but John Linares is the slow car. Coming back to the front, Jim Morton just took the lead away from Peggy Bowling, or was it Nico Tringali, it seems. So Jim Morton in the lead. Jim Morton did pretty good here in Season 2, but lost to Peyton Goodwin. Michael Naylor looking under Peggy Bowling for second. Nico Tringali, Allison Rogers battling for fourth. 6th is Henrietta Fitzwater. 7th, Carol Morton. 8th, Zachary Rogers. 9th, James Morton. And 10th, Michael Beeson. We have not had a back-to-back race winner since Season 2. When Alves did it at, I think it was Daytona and Watkins Glen, I think. But Rogers up here in 8th, looking for maybe another win. But it's a long way to go. John Linares is clearly the only slow car, as actually he's kind of up to speed. Really, he's not that much slower than him. Anyway, getting some 3-wide racing back here. Stephanie Van Ost in the back here. Scott Greeny way here in the backs. Kate Rogers trying to slowly move her way up through the field in her first race back. Chris Washer up here around 20th. Sam Rogers has made his way up through the field. Mason Powers sitting in 14th. And Zachary Rogers taking 7th place away from Henrietta Fitzwater. And did I see the caution flag? Nope, I don't see the lights on. But they're definitely jockeying around here at the front, but Jim Morton still leads. Michael Naylor trying to track him down, though. Michael Naylor hasn't made the chase since Season 1, and when he made it that season, he was terrible in that chase. As a reminder, we are going back to the regular chase format, but we are still doing 16 drivers because it's more interesting with a lot more drivers. So we're going to do 16 drivers in the chase. Next year, if we do divisions, I'm thinking like we'll do 20 because then that's 20 out of 60 cars racing. That would be pretty sweet. I know it's a third of the field, but wins wouldn't matter. It would just be points. I'm actually changing the point system next year too. I think we're going to be using the V8 supercar, because then it would be 64 to 2, 32 cars a field. We might do 32 and 32 or 30 and 30. I'm not really sure yet. Anyway, Naylor is catching up to Morton here. Bowling back to third. There's Tringali in fourth. Zachary Rogers up to sixth. Michael Beeson making his way up through the field here. Now Brenda Rogers is going to look underneath Zachary Rogers. Stepmom to the number 3, season 3 champion. Filling in for the retired driver of the number 1. He doesn't want his name mentioned anymore in the sport. On other news, I got my prom date, and I think things are going pretty well. I think we might, yeah. I'd say we're talking at least. As Michael Naylor is looking for the race lead, and it looks like he will take it away from Jim Morton. Fastest lap goes to the 51 of Allison Rogers so far tonight. Gosh darn, I'm so bad. I'm going to take a quick little break here and be back within the minute. We're back. Michael Naylor still leading. Jim Morton staying with him in second. Peggy Bowling closing in third. Nico Dringali fourth. Carol Morton in fifth. Brenda Rogers sticking in sixth. Allison Rogers seventh. Zachary Rogers eighth. Henrietta Fitzwater ninth. And Michael Beeson 10th. Greg Lyons up here in 11th, doing a pretty good job. Cody Russell in 12th. With the points leader, Logan Scott, all the way back in 39th place. It will be, his points lead's going to go down. He has about a 35 points or like 40 or something like that. Will go down. I know Greg Lyons is up there in the points, but I forget who else is. None of the top 5 drivers have won yet this season. Nope, none of them have. Brenda Rogers won. She'd clinch a season 5 ride or a spot in the field. Well, I don't know. If I'm doing divisions, I think we'll do Division 1's going to be mostly veterans and drivers that have won championships. Division 2 will be more of the rookies, because we don't want rookies wrecking the veterans. We want veterans racing veterans. But the 10, 23, and 43 are all really hooked up together. Peggy Bowling looking for second on Jim Morton. She almost went to look on Michael Naylor. So that was interesting. These 3 here are up together, pairing up. And now Cody Russell and Mason Powers are going to go to pass Greg Lyons. Mason Powers had to check up for some reason. But Michael Naylor in the lead. Peggy Bowling did not keep second, surprisingly. I thought she would, because Jim Morton has a strong car. 20 laps to go. I'm not entirely sure when pit stops will be. I'm guessing sometime soon. And I think, it looks like they're going to pit, but then they don't. Brenda Rogers making her way up through the field. She's looking for 5th on Carol Morton. And she might look for 4th here on Nico Tringali. Yes, she is. She's going for 4th on the 44 car. So Brenda Rogers might have a car for these guys up here. Peggy Bowling is looking on the back bumper of that 23 car, but she can't seem to get by him. So Brenda Rogers will pass Nico Tringali. Now Carol Morton and Allison Rogers might try to go by the 44 car as well. Zachary Rogers sitting in 10th place now as Michael Beeson passed them. And it is getting a little hairy right here. These guys have been sticking it single file. There's John Linares. Brenda Rogers up in the 4th though. And Peggy Bowling getting by Jim Morton for 2nd. This has been a very interesting race though. I'm actually gladly impressed. I'm loving this Kansas racing. I'm actually going to consider maybe coming here twice next season. And we're going to go back to a 28 race season. Because that's what it was in season 1. And that was pretty fun, season 1. This season's fun too. But Morton trying to go low. It seems turns 3 and 4 still have that outside groove working. But he did get on the inside in the middle of the turn. Michael Beeson moving his way up, looking for 8th on Henrietta Fitzwater. He will pass her easily. Zachary Rogers sitting in 10th. Brenda Rogers is closing in on these drivers. And I will be surprised if they don't have to pit, but I think they will because in real life they run 50 to 55, I think, here. So they should pit soon. I don't know what's wrong with Frank Hopkins and well, he did get hit in the back, but everybody else seems to be close. Though they're all really spread out. And are we pitting? Yes, pit stops. Pit stops are on the way. Michael Naylor staying out, however. We saw some drivers make the move down to pit road. Allison Rogers was the first one to make that move. And yes, we have a couple of drivers pitting. Michael Naylor's coming down in this time by. Peggy Bowling and Jim Morton will stay out. Let's see who we got in. Brenda Rogers, Carol Morton. Michael Beeson's coming in. Nico Tringali, Zachary Rogers, Greg Lyons, Adam Rogers. Everybody else really in, except a few. So Peggy Bowling and Jim Morton will be the last to pit. And this is going to be interesting. When they come off pit road, who will be leading? So I'm going to take a break here, and I'll be back at the halfway mark of this minute. Here we are with Allison Rogers, who was one of the first drivers to pit. We are with her. There's Zachary Rogers getting past. And the first one out of that group was Michael Naylor, then Carol Morton and Michael Beeson. It looks like Allison Rogers will come in ahead of Michael Beeson. Yes, she will. Cody Russell seems to have gained some on that stop. Naylor, though, in the lead of the group. He's way out front here. There's Jim Morton and Peggy Bowling. There's Michael Naylor. It could come down to these three. Naylor's going to go by. John Linares is right there, so he might get slowed up a little bit. But these look like these will be the drivers racing for the win. 11 laps to go. And I should be able to make this the last clip. Michael Naylor leads. Jim Morton second. Peggy Bowling third. Allison Rogers is going to try to take fourth. Carol Morton fifth. Cody Russell sixth. Michael Beeson seventh. Mason Powers eighth. Brenda Rogers ninth. And Chris Watcher 10th. Zachary Rogers fell to 15th. And we still got people passing and experimenting. Ooh, Naylor got the block by the 55. And that's going to let the 23 and the 43 gain some ground, but they have to get by John Linares too. 10 laps to go. Naylor's running pretty fast actually here. Looking for his second career win of his career. That was a bad way to word that. And it looks like the 23 and the 43 will get held up just the same. There they go now. Now Peggy Bowling's going to make it 3 wide to look for second place. Stephanie Vanasse back here. Somehow. Oh, John Linares ain't in last anymore? Oh, yeah, nope, there, yeah, he is. Tony Vieira fell a lap down. I don't know where he is in the pack. Jim Morton trying to hold on to second. Allison Rogers, Carol Morton up here now. The race for second place is heating up. And Michael Naylor is pulling away. Looking in the back here, seeing Peggy Bowling. Second place, looks like she's trying to pull away from these drivers. It looks like Jim Morton, looks like they're not really that fast. Peggy Bowling seems to be the only one that might be able to catch Michael Naylor. She was about a 10th faster that last lap. Jim Morton in third, though. Carol Morton looking for fourth on Allison Rogers. 6th, Cody Russell. 7th, Mason Powers. 8th, Michael Beeson. 9th, Brenda Rogers. And 10th is Chris Watcher. Brenda Rogers is still moving up through the field. Jim Morton just threw down a really fast lap, but he just had to check up for Peggy Bowling. I don't know if Stephanie Vanasse will be caught. Logan Scott up to 34th. Here's Tony Vieira at the back, a lap down. So Logan Scott 34th, trying to help keep the damage low. Anyway, we are at 5 laps to go for Michael Naylor. Peggy Bowling is kind of faster. Jim Morton does not seem to have the car to beat. Allison Rogers with a fast lap on the day, a 26.465. 4 laps to go for Michael Naylor in his first chase since Season 1. As a reminder, next week we will be going to Homestead for the first time since Season 2, I believe. I don't think we went there last season. Homestead will be the third to last race before the chase, so drivers are really trying to get those wins. The only driver with 2 wins on the season is Austin Alves, and that guarantees at least 3 drivers in on points alone. And Logan Scott, believe it or not, has not won a race. Remember, you have to be top 25 in points. I think we have 1 driver outside that top 25. You'll see after the race. But Michael Naylor getting the job done today, as Peggy Bowling and Jim Morton are still racing here. Mason Powers with a late charge here. And if you hear that vibration, that's my phone. Brenda Rogers and Mason Powers getting it done. So Michael Naylor with 2 laps to go has a pretty good lead. So I got a text from White Flag, and I think, yep. So these 2 are gaining, but there's just not enough time. Stephanie Vanas isn't that close to Michael Naylor. We're going to TV2 this going into turn 3. And guys, I can't wait for this season's chase. I think it's going to be great. Great track selection. Coming off of turn 4, Michael Naylor is going to win the 5-Hour Energy 400 here at Kansas. Peggy Bowling will come home second. Jim Morton third. Mason Powers fourth. Brenda Rogers rounds out the top 5. Then Carol Morton 6th. Allison Rogers 7th. Cody Russell 8th. He's pretty high in points. Chris Washer 9th in his return. And Michael Beeson in 10th. Kate Rogers came home in 22nd in the 22 car in her return. See you guys at Homestead.